Last time on Hakai, after Goku was officially made a god of destruction, we got a peek of what it was like for Beerus when he himself was training to become a destroyer. It seems long before the rivalry we know, with he and his brother Champa, the destroyers of Universe 6 and 7 before them also shared a fierce disdain for one another. We also learned that Goroga of Universe 6 hatched a plan to sabotage the flourishing Universe 7, as a powerful creature had Beerus and Champa on the ropes. The latter's teacher, Tyrant, would arrive just in time to save him. But before we jump back to follow Goku's newest journey, there's one more story we need to know. This is part 5 of an ongoing series and was created by Hakai. Support him and catch it fully using the links below. In a cold, empty region of space, we find ourselves on planet Hale. Gazing upon a hidden chamber, Frieza states that he hasn't been on this planet in quite some time now. It's almost nostalgic. Very Blue remembers that day well. Frieza's father accompanied them that time. They had all come here to seize that one guy, seeming to be afraid to mention his name. The Emperor goes on to detail how his father specifically built this place to keep that pest contained. Stationed at this base, a small platoon of Frieza Force soldiers. He chortles that there are so many soldiers here that are supposed to keep himself from dirtying his hands. But if their prisoner were to break loose, every one of them would prove useless. Decades ago, the general of King Cold's army was the Great Cooler. Though this Cooler is unlike the one we know. He never fought Goku on Earth, and he never ventured to Namek to enslave its population. He's brand new to this story, much like Broly. He was extremely powerful and had many achievements for Cold's army. However, his strength grew so much that the king himself was extremely worried about him, as his power had already far exceeded both his and Frieza's. One day, fearing he would usurp his throne, King Cold hatched a plan with Frieza to capture him. They managed to subdue him and his most trusted men and imprison them in this structure, which was designed specifically to be able to hold him. As we spot the Frost Demon in a giant tank, Frieza smiles and chuckles that there's his older brother, before congratulating Kikuno. It seems his prison capsule works perfectly despite the fact it's been many years, decades even. The proud underling returns his grin and details how the device works. The liquid inside this unit is a powerful sedative. Because of it, Lord Cooler has been paralyzed and unconscious since his initial confinement. You could even say frozen in time considering the longevity of Frieza's people. It's also worth noting that the metallic plates which restrain his limbs, they emit a certain type of radiation which neutralizes his energy. He worked tirelessly for months to perfect that technology. Seeming to grow more appreciative or maybe even affectionate since his resurrection, or his second resurrection, the Frost Demon admits that he really has to hand it to a scientist servant. He has done a wonderful job with this prison, but he needs him to drain Cooler's capsule. Frazzled, Kikuno questions, with all due respect, if he's sure about that. He doesn't think the restraints alone will be able to hold him if he's not sedated. Offering his signature laugh, he joyfully tells him not to be silly. Cooler may have been a bit stronger than him in the past, but his powers have not grown since he was imprisoned. Frieza has become much more powerful than Cooler could ever dream. And considering he's been doing a lot of that lately, that's saying something. Not daring to object to his ruler's will a second time, Kikuno heads over to the console to drain the sedative fluid from the tank. The moment the liquid's removed, Cooler's vitals begin to immediately normalize. Very Blue scoffs if he expected anything less from Lord Cooler. Frieza! Still with that smug look on his face, Frieza questions how his dearest brother has been. Furious, Cooler growls to know how this despicable cretin can stand in front of him so nonchalantly. And where is their father? Hasn't he the same audacity? Frieza's sorry to inform, but King Cold died many years ago now. But Cooler's only regret is not getting the pleasure of seeing his life fade with his own eyes. Still singing his own note, Frieza reveals that, believe it or not, it was in fact a Saiyan who killed him. Which the shock of almost calms his brother down for a second. A Saiyan? Surely he's kidding. There's no way one of those primates could have defeated their father. Causing his other to sigh at just how much has changed since he was first locked away here. As surprising as it may be, Saiyans are no longer the same fragile beings they used to subjugate. And as hard as it may be to hear, the few remaining are even stronger than the two of them now. This is something that Cooler outright refuses to believe, calling it blasphemy. As the shackles begin to give way, the Emperor states that it's actually the reason he's here. As much as he hates to admit it, his army, which once dominated all in its path, is no longer the unstoppable force it once was. It's necessary that Cooler joins them so they can form a new empire. This is the only way they will be able to defeat the Saiyans of Earth. But join him! He'll kill him! He'll kill his minions! And since he can't kill their father, as soon as he gets off this planet, he'll even kill those Saiyans which bested him! Just as a chaotic beeping begins to ring out.
No way!
Cooler gets a taste firsthand at how much has changed during his stay here. Without flinching or even budging, his brother stops him mid-punch. The Emperor again chuckles and comments that he's glad to see that Cooler's power hasn't diminished at all. But as he said before, at this moment he can't even begin to recount the number of things that have occurred since his confinement. Showing off his golden form, the lesser demon stares on in awe. When did Frieza obtain so much power? By the feel alone, this must be even stronger than his best transformation. Although Cooler likely can't even sense power levels at this point, and one could assume he's only slightly more powerful than Frieza was during the battle on Namek. Much has changed for Frieza himself. He's learned unimaginable things. He condescends though that his sibling here doesn't have to look so sad. If he simply joins him, he'll teach him how to unlock this form, and many other useful techniques. United, they can be an elite force capable of reclaiming the universe from not only the Saiyans, but the gods themselves. And after that, the Frieza Force, commanded by Lord Cooler, will be sovereign again throughout the galaxies. Standing, Cooler agrees to this. For now, he will join him to help annihilate those Saiyans from Earth, but Frieza must release Cooler's special forces who are also imprisoned here. A deal that is easily agreed upon. Shortly after, it appears Cooler's armored squadron was also being held here in its usual lineup. Clearing around, he has to admit that this ship is far more advanced than anything he or his men have ever used. Who again offers praise to Kikino. It was all his doing after all. Who doesn't seem to enjoy the extra attention. The Frost Demon then details how the ship is not only luxurious and sizable, but also contains several reinforced areas for them to train. Not to mention, they can now travel faster than ever before, which is perfect for where they're going. Still looking around, Cooler spots someone in particular who gets his attention. A particular who's just sitting around and doing nothing. He, not so kindly, questions what that creature is over there. Who chimes he must mean Linzier. He's a native to planet Yardrop. Though his brother cannot but comment he doesn't look very strong. Is this really what his elite forces have dwindled down to? But Frieza chortles, heavens no! Linzier is no soldier, though he should rest assured that he indeed hides some useful skills. Skills which they'll be needing in the near future. Not pressing the issue, Cooler moves on to ask what the plan is anyway, prompting Frieza to saunter over to a computer. Opening a screen, he states that aside from Cooler himself, he selected a handful of other formidable warriors, or should he say beasts. And if we ourselves take a look, the first thing that pops out is Majin Buu. Then upon reading the names we have, Halamer, Hatch, Hiru, and Janemba. But what could these five possibly have in common? And what is the identity of three of them? Frieza hisses that with them, he will not only be able to finish off the warriors of Earth, but also the gods of every universe! When Cooler finally has to stop him, why does he keep referring to gods? And what does he mean every universe? Does he have a fever or something? He scoffs that he will eventually explain at length, but all he needs to know for now is that there are many more beings more powerful than the two of them, besides the Saiyans. In fact, they are true dictators who hold their lives in the palm of their hands. But with these beasts, they'll be able to kill all of them. Still a little deadpan, Cooler replies that he's not even going to claim that he's following the majority of this, but he can give him the details during their journey. What's important to him is just how powerful these beings are. When the image of Majin Buu catches his attention, he thinks he's seen this one somewhere before. Wasn't this the Majin Buu, the legendary maniac that millions of years ago decimated hundreds of civilizations? The Cold Army, many years ago, investigated the existence of this thing because of the myth about him, a myth that was found in all regions of the universe. Father said they should never mess with him if he ever returned. It's then revealed that these 5 are called the Primordial Beasts, and apparently they were all part of a super powerful deity that was sealed away. He doesn't know all of the details yet, but these creatures can overcome even the gods of destruction, which is only one of the cursed deity classes, which he was referring to before. In the case of Majin Buu, from what he understands at least, a tiny bit of its power was wielded by a mage named Bibbidi millions of years ago, and it was that lone part which caused all the destruction in those ancient times. A few years ago, he was released again and defeated by the Saiyans, but there's still a gigantic part of his power that is yet to be released, and he intends to use it to his full advantage. Leading to Cooler to grow a bit more serious. He has to inquire how it is that he knows so much about these strange beasts and where to find them. And that much is simple. The Frieza Force caught word of a fellow named Zuno, an omniscient being who lives in the far reaches of the universe. He forced him to reveal all this information to him. He pointed him to these creatures. He wanted to explain the smallest of details of every single thing, but he implored him to summarize most of it. The important thing is that he knows that they're powerful, and he knows how to find them. The first one they're going to search for is called Janemba. He is currently the closest. In that case, they should make haste. Cooler would very much so like to meet these primordial beasts. And about 1 month later, it would appear the space travelers have arrived to their targeted location in one of the reinforced areas. Frieza compliments his brother that it's been more or less a month since they started their training, but he's progressed spectacularly. He's achieved what would have taken himself 2 or 3 months. Who, while panting in exhaustion, boasts that of course he did. He is the great Cooler after all. Though he's all support on the outside, this positivity may only be the Frost Demon's newest way of merely getting what he wants. He thinks to himself that Cooler better not be thinking he won't be keeping an eye on his progress. If he believes his powers will be a threat at any time, he will not hesitate to kill him. Calling in on a monitor, Berry Blue alerts the pair that they've reached their destination. Making their way in, Cooler's confused. He wants to know why they stopped here of all places. His brother informs that this rift in space will take them to a parallel dimension. This place is called the Demon Realm, also known as the Makai World. Here they will find their new recruit. With the smallest amount of hesitation, as a rift in space which takes you to the Doom universe would likely rattle most of us. Hikino tells Lenzir that even though the ship is extremely resistant, the energy emanating from that fissure is quite large, and if they get any closer, they'll be torn apart. They need him to teleport the ship past it. Spinning into action with gusto, Cooler questions if it's even possible to teleport an entire ship across dimensions, which Berry Blue is happy to elaborate on. The Ardradian race is known for their many tricks and special techniques. Among them is a form of teleportation. Still, transporting an entire ship is a very difficult feat, even by Ardra standards. Lucky for them, Lenzir is a prodigy of his people and has the most refined teleportation skills. Now makes sense to Cooler why they bothered keeping him here. He's simply an insect with interesting tricks. Landing in the Makai world with no trouble. A horde of demons immediately attacks the ship. However, Hikino is able to deploy their shields just in time. He utters to all within earshot that they can rest assured that their force field is more than enough to stop these creatures. They won't be able to damage the ship. When his commander details, per Zuno's instructions, Janemba is being held in a floating fortress not far from here. With this ship's speed, they should arrive in a few hours. From what Zuno informed him of, they'll meet resistance to get to him, so they all need to be prepared for a battle. As those hours came to pass, they found themselves at such a compound. Unfortunately, this castle also has a pretty strong force field of its own. So again, they're gonna need Lenzir to get him through it. For their first hurdle, it looks like some ridiculous fool wants to face all of them. Frieza thinks this will be a good test for his brother's soldier to prove if they're still worthy of the Frieza Force. While normally one to reply with a snarky quip, Cooler quickly calls for a squadron not to let him down. First assessing his foe's strength, Salza Scouter registers a reading of 250,000 units. While impressive, if they work together, they can beat him. He calls for Battle Tactic 16.
Yes, Captain!
Upon seeing the armored squadron, Frieza still remembers how this division even surpassed the Ginyu Force and was feared throughout the galaxy. Dory, a soldier who in terms of brute strength could overwhelm everyone in his father's army. He could compete head-on with even gigantic creatures. Knees. Those physical attributes aren't great. With the special abilities, he can paralyze even immensely powerful fighters. And finally, Captain Salza. With his Keyblade, he can cut through mountains like paper. He was considered the most powerful soldier in their army while on active duty, considerably passing Captain Ginyu. Saving his sass for this moment, Cooler questions his little brother if he still doubts the competence of his soldiers. It was just as dry as Cooler himself was a moment ago. He only utters, "Not bad, but they should keep moving." On making their way inside, they're greeted by even more familiar faces, though it's unconfirmed if the events of the Dead Zone movie took place. From our right to left, we have Ginger, Nikki, and Sancho. Nikki is shocked to see that this group managed to take down that monster with ease. In so many years here, they have never found a more powerful beast than he. Ginger worries that they should alert the Master. They may be the Celestial Guardians, and they were ordered to report on any sign of outsiders. The Celestial Guardians being briefly touched on in Chapter 1 of the story. But Nikki scowls he not be an idiot. It's been several decades since they were confined to this place. If they want to prove their worth, they need to face some enemies on their own. Only then will the Master recognize their power. They will become true Guardians and leave their position of mere apprentices. But who is this Master they speak of? Is it simply Garlic Jr.? And how did they end up here? The Dead Zone itself is stated to only be a void which traps its victims in a dark pocket of emptiness, not a shortcut to the Makai realm. Come to think about it, I don't even think they ever fell into the Dead Zone. At any rate, Sancho doesn't believe there's any chance these guys are Celestial Guardians. He's gonna crush them like cockroaches. Alas, his dust-kicking up technique does nothing to the would-be invaders. He shouts at them that he doesn't know what they want, but they will not let them pass. Barely paying him any mind, Frieza turns his focus to the very thing they want. Janemba. Just how will the Galactic Tyrant be able to control Janemba? Does he plan on leaving him in that cocoon? Or will he simply overwhelm the creature with brute strength? Beforehand though, the Garlic Jr.'s henchmen actually pose a threat to them.